Moin Moin, as we used to say in Germany, where also this gem of a video game called Gothic 1 is from. It was released in 2001. And there is a new gameplay trailer that dropped just yesterday by Alchemia Interactive and THQ Nordic, and it is crazy. I'm honestly kind of hyped. I do try to remain critical. I do not pre-order. The game isn't out yet. But to be honest, there was a playable teaser some years ago. It was absolutely awful, and they came a long way. You can really tell with this trailer that they have a dedicated team that really tries to make us fans happy, but also to capture a new audience, right? Newcomers that might have not played this. So this video is for newcomers and for fans like me alike. I'm definitely gonna share everything that I notice, good and bad. And yeah, it's probably gonna be a longer video. It's also my first YouTube video, so please bear with me. Anyway, let's just jump into it.
Enough! Send him in!
Okay, I already have to pause. This reminds me of the intro from the old game from Piranha Bytes, the previous developer, as most of you probably know. And it just kind of has the same vibe, the same colors, even the sound, the way it begins. I don't know. It just gives me a lot of nostalgia vibes. And this is most likely the water that you get pushed into in the beginning when you enter the colony. Oh my god. Wait a second. Gotta go back again. This looks phenomenal. Just look at the view. Oh my god. It looks so close to the original, but it has all of the new graphics. It looks very faithful. And they said they expanded the world, not just the world, the content as well, right? But the world, if I recall correctly, they expanded it by around 25 to 30%. And I do think this is not just gonna they're not just gonna add some new areas at the edge of the map or something, but they also change the distance, maybe the comparison from the sizes, like between, like, let's say between this camp and the bridge in the beginning, like there's more distance to it probably, stuff like that. We see that later in the video as well. But yeah, this is new. The snow region is definitely new, which I find interesting. So we actually have a different biome there. And I wonder if they find a way to explain why that is. Maybe because the mountains are just relatively high there, or it has something to do with the magical barrier that for some reason at this region it just is very cold. I'm definitely curious what they're gonna make of it to explain why it is there, because I feel like, especially in Elex, like the later games from Piranha Bytes, it just always felt like they're really good at world building, but it never felt like organic in the way where suddenly there's like a snow region, suddenly there's like a desert region. It just, given the size and everything, it just felt too artificial for me. Yeah, the magic looks phenomenal already. The magic, the combat system. Oh yeah. Oh my god, this looks so good. There's already so much that I just want to go back to and talk about, but we'll see more of that in the trailer. So I don't wanna stall too long now. I'm just gonna move ahead.
Welcome to the Valley of Mines, an immense...
Yeah, here we have the view again. Oh, this looks so good. You can see the old camp, the inner area, the castle, the outer walls. There's already so much in this picture, and I really love how in between, like from the camp going out to the mountains and to other areas, how dense it is. I wonder how many new regions we are also gonna see, and which old areas that might have been underutilized gonna get more quests, gonna get more NPCs or reasons to go there.
penal colony. For the war...
Yeah, this is this is by far, like, to be honest, I was very skeptical before the new gameplay dropped, and now I'm very hyped. So the trailer really got me, but there's one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's these orcs. I mean, also, what the hell is up with the tree in the background? If I just play it again, it moves weirdly.
Against the orcs, the only...
Like, wait, I'm gonna go back. I don't know if this is just some pop-up, it just loads
for the
in,
war
or
against the orcs.
or if the tree's like doing that the whole time. I don't know. It looks a bit strange to me. But that said,
For the war...
my main issue is the look of these orcs. obviously, they probably have their reasons why they look like that, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe this is still work in progress and it's going to look different. But given the fact that they spent so much time now before releasing this trailer, I do feel like they took their time to make a good trailer and to really make things look as close to the end result as possible. So I'm kind of confused if they would actually go with a different orc design, why they have this really boring design here. And the thing is, what bothers me the most, it's not even that they look very different than in the original. The original, they were like these giant, kind of like the ape titan, beast titan from Attack on Titan, looking like ape monster orcs. They were really quite scary and raw, but they were also very original. But this just looks like your average orc that you've seen in countless games and movies. It's just boring, you know. And they also look very human. Like they just look like some gym bros who have like here like male pattern baldness, like androgenetic alopecia. They have pointy ears, and then their bodies are gray. I don't know, like body paint. It just looks really generic. And yeah, my main issue with it's boring. It's not just this doesn't invoke any emotion in me, right? Like let's say you walk through the Valley of the Mines, and then you go around one corner and suddenly there's an orc standing, right? In the original game, that freaked the shit out of me. It really scared me. Actually, there's an anecdote. My best friend and I, we played it when we were around 10 years old back then. And he was extremely scared of the mine crawlers. Like his name's Peter. He has a kid now, doesn't really have time for this stuff anymore. As you all know, life moves on. And but we still both go back to Gothic, just talking about it, watching videos just for the nostalgia's sake. It's wonderful. And when he saw mine crawlers, or when he even heard them, you know, you would be in like the old mine, you would hear some mine crawlers. He would put his hands over his eyes, covering his eyes, and being in absolute terror, right? Like you would have nightmares from that. So yeah, good old times, right? It was crazy. And for me, it was the orcs. Like I would, like not after time, not anymore, but in the beginning, I would just venture through the world and everything. The first time playing it would be so, you know, so scary, so dangerous, and you could die around every corner. And then suddenly there's an orc, and you're like, oh god! Like the screams, they were a menace. And I'm not gonna get these feelings with these orcs. Even when you play this the first time, these orcs are just bland and boring. I don't know. I really hope if actually someone from Alchemia Interactive is listening to this, which I highly doubt is going to happen, um, please change the orcs. Like pretty much the whole community agrees that they're really bad and well, they're really boring. And since they do play a big role in the game, and the rest of the game is so original, and you can clearly tell that the team at Alchemia Interactive is trying their best, putting their heart and soul into being faithful to the original and keeping in the originality. Sorry for my poor English. This totally sticks out. Maybe it was like an intern. Maybe it's the same person that thought it's a glorious idea to just announce this overpriced collector's edition that had some really bad trash additions to it. Like none of the stuff, the goodies they put in there are really interesting, in my opinion. And then they basically announced that before we've seen any gameplay. This was a really stupid PR move. And the community did not like that. Maybe it's the same person, maybe the same intern that decided to. I'm just kidding, of course, right? But that ran with this org design. Who knows the inner workings, what led up to this? But anyway, I don't want to ramble too long about this. I wanna continue. But this is just me being bit critical. But that's the only critical point I have with this video. So see it from that perspective. Actually, I have nothing but positive words for the rest of the gameplay. So I feel like I should at least dedicate some time to this little aspect that I did not like that much.
War against the orcs, the only undefeated.
Here the orc looks a lot better actually in the armor. It looks very metal, very Mad Max-esque as well, which is an interesting take. I mean, if this gets a good sound design, which it actually has, you will hear it in a moment, I think this can be scary. And on the second thought, if you look at it with the spikes, it resembles a lot the Sleeper. For those who don't know, the Sleeper is kind of the god the orcs, and not just the orcs, also the sec camp like kind of prays to. I don't know how to say it in English, but so it kind of resembles the Sleeper head. So maybe that's the reason why it looks this way. And I do know, actually, now that I think about it, I do know that the armor sets that the humans wear, right? They have some technology behind it that even if you have the same kind of armor, it will always look a bit different, right? So maybe they go for the same with the orcs. And for some reason, maybe that better works with like a very human-like body, and perhaps that's the reason the orcs look the way they do. That might be a reason actually, from a technical perspective, and not a creative choice. Even though I still wish they find a way, at least give them hair, right? Make them look like the orcs we come to know and love and the Gothic games. I do feel like Gothic 3, as bad as it was in many ways, they managed to do humanoid orcs quite well, while still keeping the uniqueness of the original in a way. But yeah, more about Gothic 3 later, perhaps at the end of this video.
Enemies of the kingdom of Mertana. The king needs.
Oh, another thing, and I'm going back again, I'm sorry. Um, we see humans hang down here from different camps. Now, I do not recall that orcs ate humans. I don't think they did, but I would actually find it pretty cool if orcs would eat humans. So if they do that, I don't know why they would hang them up there. This looks more like to scare off people. Uh, but I would kind of like it to if the orcs would actually eat humans. I don't know, giving it like some more scariness to them. You know what I mean? I kind of think that would be a good idea. Plus, it would also make sense lore-wise because you have this prison colony where you can get in through the magical barrier, but you can't get out, right? And I assume food is relatively scarce in there. If you hunt down too much, you're gonna have issues, right? Which is an issue the humans have as well. They find ways, right? And you as a player as well, there's plenty of monsters to hunt and whatnot. But technically, if this goes on for longer, it is a closed-off ecosystem. So I feel like it would make sense for the orcs to just eat the humans as well to make use out of their bodies.
Kingdom of Mertana. The king needed ore to supply his armies. So every man guilty of a crime.
Yeah, the mines, they look fantastic. It's so crazy to me how they managed to stick so close to the original, yet put it in a new graphical environment. Because yeah, you can use mods, but it always gonna look off, you know. Even though they're great mods, great graphic overhaul mods for Gothic 1 and especially 2, it's still something is off. You know what I mean? But here, I feel like they capture the atmosphere from the original, and we see that later on in this video as well. Um, while still going with the technological development, right? I mean, Gothic, the original, is really old, 2001, so a lot has changed since then. But to be honest, while it might look dated nowadays, it was really ahead of its time when it came out, graphic-wise, and gameplay-wise, it still is if you compare it to modern titles in many ways. But I'll talk more about that at the end of the trailer as well, because I kind of feel like I'm pausing way too much right now.
No matter how insignificant, was forced to work in the ore mines of Korinis. To make it impossible for them to escape, the king sent out his...
Again, talking about atmosphere, look at the sky with the stars. It looks phenomenal. It's so atmospheric. Like, you don't have to have the most detailed, high-end, HD-rich graphic textures everywhere, right? But you have to get lighting and colors and these little details right, just the way the sky looks. And we've got more examples of this later on in the trailer. You can tell they really focus on making the world beautiful. And the crazy part about Gothic is it is a very rough, scary, dangerous world. And the soundtrack, the environment, everything would reflect that and give you as a player, give you this feeling. Even nowadays, would you still play it for the first time and the game is dated and all of that, Gothic 1 from back then, it still gives you that feeling. At the same time, it is also very cozy. And I do feel like it's going to be the same with the remake.
best magicians to create a magical barrier around the entire valley. But something disturbed the creation of the barrier.
Look at it. It's so
trapping
atmospheric.
everyone inside.
Plus the soundtrack. Did you hear the bird? I'm going to go back. For a second.
Everyone inside.
Oh, wait, I missed it, actually. My bad.
Barrier. Trapping every...
The original used a public sound library, and back then, Peter and I, when we were kids, we didn't know about that. So later on, we would watch movies or play other games, and we would hear these sounds where we're like, wait a moment, that's from Gothic. It wasn't. And now we have basically the best sound designer, in my opinion, in the whole world of video game sound design, Kai Rosenkrantz, who also worked on the originals, working on the remake as well. And so he's re-recording a lot of the old music, the old sounds, and to give it the sense of familiarity. Sorry, my English again. And yet putting it into a modern environment, right? Because obviously nowadays they wouldn't need to use this sound library anymore. So I do think they make their own thing, but it comes so close to the original, it really hits home just listening to the sounds of the trailer. Like whenever I'm not speaking, I'm making it a little bit hard for you, I know.
Everyone inside. The convicts revolted and took control of the colony. They divided into 3 camps. The old camp.
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier. Like this bridge in the original was way smaller, and the old camp looked bigger because it was closer to it, right? If you would stand here. And fun fact, actually, here there are 2 guards in the original game, and now this is about gameplay, actually, which is still like you don't find this in modern games even, especially like games from Ubisoft and EA. You know how they are, right? They save money. They're not known for creativity. They use a lot of like dark patterns to make you spend more money, and everything has a mini map, and basically they have big open empty worlds. It's a shame. And the original had a lot of interactions with the NPCs. Like if you would rob an NPC, they would remember that. If you would murder one, someone else witnessing that would remember that, and they would treat you different depending on how if they're scared of you, if they're stronger than you, what faction you belong to. They might not talk to you anymore. They would be like, "No, you're a murderer. Fuck off." Or they would be like, "Oh no, please don't hurt me." Like stuff. It really had a massive impact, and that made this world, among many other aspects, it made this world so believable and immersive. And here there are 2 guards from the old camp, and in the beginning, when you arrive there, you obviously have no chance, right? If you actually search a fight with them, they're just gonna hit you down, and then they're gonna rob you. And sometimes they can also totally kill you. Like if you hit someone down, they're on the ground, and you can still decide to finish them. And the same goes for the NPCs actually. And they take your weapon, they take your ore, whatever stuff of worth you have on you. Basically, maybe they extend that to more items in the remake. I don't know. I do think they should just keep it with the ore and the weapon. And yes, you can reload then, which I did a lot. I have to admit, the first game playing it, you would test your limits, right? And back then I wasn't used to role-playing game like this. I played Pokemon before and some Super Nintendo emulated games on my PC, but having a 3D role-playing game like that was new. So all of these mechanics that we came so accustomed to nowadays, they didn't exist in that sense back then, right? Not that much. So it was new for me, and that made the game so much more immersive as well, because you were just trying around what you can do, what you can't do. And yeah, likewise, you could also play the game more in a role-playing sense, that you accept the consequences. So let's say you see an enemy where you feel like you want to beat them down and try to get a weapon for whatever reason, and then you lose. And many weapons are unique, right? And then the enemy, when you're knocked out on the ground, just takes your weapon and some of your ore, and then you have to live with that. You maybe then have to, well, use another weapon that's worse, right? The second best weapon that you might have. And that's going to be harder for a while until you get a better weapon again. So there's a lot of roleplay possibility to this as well. But what I wanted to get to finally wrap this up with these 2 guards, if I would hit one down and then the other helps him, right? So I hit the other one down as well. They remember that. And the next time I hit one of them down, I come back, right? They recovered, whatnot. I come back, hit one down. The other one wouldn't attack me, because he already knows, oh shit, the last time we already lost against him, right? So the other one turns away and is like, I haven't seen anything. It would be so funny in German the way they say it, like, ich habe nichts gesehen. Like, it's so hilarious. And not everyone would respond like that, but for these 2 NPCs, this was their reaction, right? Some would just run away, or when they realize they're losing a fight, they try to run away, begging for their life, funny stuff like that.
Is satisfied with the current situation. As long as they deliver the ore, the king supplies them with everything they need.
This seems to be the entrance area, or part of it. I assume more on the right is the water, I would guess, where they have, yeah, well, basically you get thrown into the colony, and where they regularly have trade exchanges with the king. So the ore baron Gomez, the other ore barons of the old camp, they control this, and they would, as most of you probably know, and they exchange goods. And in the original, this only happened in the intro and never again. So basically, you wouldn't go back to this area. You would just look for whatever you can find there. If you're crafty, if you're not crafty, if you're, how do you say that? If you're creative, you climb around a little bit, and you will find hidden items that give you an advantage in the beginning, stuff like that. Some extra mods, some more XP. But then you don't go back, because there was no reason to, right? And now that they put more effort into this, and probably there are also more NPCs, there's probably more going on here. I would imagine that there might be quests in the early game when you want to join the old camp that makes you go back to it several times, perhaps, and gives this place more significance. That would at least, justify why they put more resources into developing this area. Or maybe you're part of another camp, the new camp, and you try to. I mean, who knows what options you will have later on. You try to take over here, actually. Take the place. You're going to raid it. Who knows, right? In the original, there wasn't a thing, but maybe you will have more options story-wise to choose as well.
The new camp, however, thinks they can.
And that's a new camp that I just spoke of, and this also looks so good. Just the lighting, it looks so atmospheric. This is what I meant. Like, this game is, the world of the game is really dangerous and raw and violent, but it's also so cozy at the same time. And just with the new technology, like how the lighting looks, it's amazing. And one thing that I didn't see on the first look, in the past you had like several levels as well, but in the inner level here, basically you had like the metal gutter here where you would walk over. I hope gutter is the right word. And underneath it you would find the magical ore. This is still the same, still the case here, but there's another level in between. So I assume there are tunnels beneath this, and so the new camp is way bigger actually below the surface than it used to be in the original. Which before that there was only the tunnel to the ore, right? And it would be connected to this region here where the water mages would be. And I assume now there's even more of a labyrinthian touch to the camp, which I think is important because basically you just have 3 camps. And while the size of the original, the game length was fine, I do feel like today for replayability, they should expand a little bit on it, which I do think they do. So yeah, this looks. I just want to jump into this and explore every little hut, talk to every NPC, uh, just get to know every little piece of the environment. I'm looking forward to this so much.
Camp, however, thinks they can use the ore to.
And here, well, the fans know. You know what happens here. I do hope the nameless hero is gonna have that smirk, that that nasty smile, like in the original. When whatever happens, happens. I hope they put that in, like as an Easter egg, maybe, if you want to call it that.
Blow up the barrier. And then there is the sect from.
Look how dense this is. Like, the moisture levels are beyond critical, honestly. This is so moist here. And I love the complementary color contrast from the green to the orange. Also gives me a lot of Witcher 2 vibes. If you remember that game in the beginning area, I forgot how flotsam it was in German. I don't know in English, but there was also like, it was also swamp, right? And it had a lot of it had this color palette as well. It was working very well together. I do media design for a living, so complementary contrast, basically a color at the other end of the color wheel. They usually match very, very harmonious for the eye, and I feel like this fits perfectly in here.
From the swamp. They believe that a
Look at it, it looks so good. Oh my god.
mysterious new deity will free them from their prison.
Yeah, this is the head of the sleeper, at least as a rough shape interpretation, and it's very similar with the spikes to the armor of the orc. So I do think that's where the design comes from.
Thus begins your journey in the open world of the Valley of Mines. Creating Gothic Remake, we first.
Again, it's so atmospheric. Oh my god, the rain, just listen to it again. I'm gonna replay it again. The rain, just how it looks, how dense everything is here. Like, I do remember in Gothic 1, the forests around the camp were so scary. They managed, with the limited resources they had back then, to just, yeah, I don't know. They're more scary than forests in modern video games, like Skyrim or whatever. I mean, Skyrim's beautiful. I loved it. I wouldn't call it modern anymore. But obviously, it's way younger than Gothic 1. But the forests were not scary in Skyrim to me. But in Gothic, you could go around a tree and you just get torn to pieces by a shadow beast. And now imagine when in this game, when it's dark, when it's rainy, this is gonna give so much atmosphere. Oh my god. You could really get lost into Gothic 1, despite the game being relatively small. I mean, not for the time, but from today's standards. The world building was so complex and so well done that it felt a lot bigger, and you could easily get lost. Like, going back to the swamp camp, I forgot to mention that. I got lost in this area so freaking many times in the beginning of the game back then. especially at night when it's dark, right? Because there are like ladders you can climb up because they build a lot of houses on around the trees on higher levels, and you would just get lost all the time. And I love that actually. Like it was it was a love hate relationship, of course, but now in hindsight, that gave the game so much atmosphere, and I do hope they're gonna do this as well in the remake. Uh, there was also no minimap that you could just pop open like in other games, which is phenomenal because you have a lot of landmarks in Gothic. So if an NPC tells you, I don't know, retrieve me this or that, then they kind of describe the way to the best of their ability, which also in a way would make sense to that character to even know about the world, right? Like if it's an NPC from the old camp, then naturally they know the most about the old camp, but they might not know a lot about the new camp. Which these factions kind of they traded with each other, but they're also kind of like enemies. So at the end, it depended also on the individual how they thought about the other camps. Because most of them, of the prisoners, they just tried to find a way, join one of the camps in a way they could make a living there without being enslaved or dying. So it's, you have to put up with some stuff. And you could get a map, but only if you steal it or buy it from a cartographer. In this game, his name was like Graham. He was like, ich bin Graham. Ich, ich zeichne Karten. Something like that in German. I don't know in English, but I can't really do that impression very well. But yeah, you could rob him, which kind of felt bad. I do think I did sometimes, or just buy it off. And the good thing is with that map, it wouldn't be like a constant mini map in some corner here, like, and always showing you where to go, and then all you do is looking at the mini map. Like, The Witcher 3 was great. I loved it, but I turned off the mini map. And the thing is, though, the game wasn't made for playing it without the minimap. And if you play with the minimap, you're just constantly looking where you have to go. So you miss so much from the world in a sense that you don't need to utilize the world to find your way around. And it adds so much immersion if you don't have a minimap. And but therefore, the game also has to be made for that. And Gothic is extremely good at that. And the funny part is, you could open the map then once you acquire it, but it would be an item in your inventory, and you would hold it up, and you would only see where you are right now. It wouldn't like move with you when you move, and it also only had the areas painted into it that NPC Graham knew. Like he was like a digger from the old camp, like more or less a slave, right? He was weak. He wasn't strong enough to go to dangerous places where there would be orcs. He would die. So naturally, all you would find on the map is what he experienced from the prison colony. And all of these other areas, they went on there. So that also added another level of immersion. And this is, I hope, and I actually, I had my doubts, but after seeing this gameplay trailer, I do think they're gonna keep that in mind as well. They're really, really trying their best to be faithful to the original, and not just to make it right for us fans, also old fans that grew up with this. It's like this huge nostalgia behind that for me as well. Um, but also because they recognize these strengths that Gothic 1 had, the original, you don't find them in new games nowadays. At least most of them you don't. So it is actually good for this new game as a new game for new players as well to utilize these strong points the original had, right?
Believe that a mysterious new deity will free them from their prison. Thus begins your journey in the open world of the Valley of Mines. Creating Gothic Remake, we focus on the 4 pillars that
Diego as well looks a lot better now than he did in the playable teaser. For those who don't know, the playable teaser, he was just this, he was dancing around, and it was weird. It had nothing to do with Diego. But way worse than Diego was actually the interpretation of the Nameless Hero. I could go back now and completely destroy the playable teaser because it was really bad in every way. But that's not what I want to focus on. Quite the opposite. I want to focus on how much they have come from that and how faithful it is now. Like even the outfit, like the playable teaser, basically the Nameless Hero already looked like he had some crazy armor. He was just fending off 3 snappers, which are like these raptors that are really strong, really end game scary creatures that would stalk you. Actually, you might, if you don't turn around, you walk through a dark forest, you might not notice they stalk you for quite a while, just walking behind you until they wait for the right moment to attack, which usually would finish you with 1 attack. Especially in the beginning, they were quite strong, and especially in herds. And the playable teaser, he would just be like like Star-Lord, like the actor, like not Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. What was this? Chris Pratt, right? Chris Pratt. He would just stand there and do the Jurassic Park movie with these 3 raptors, and it's just and he would constantly comment every little thing, like me right now, but even more annoying, right? And he would be like, "Oh God, I hit my knee. Oh God, oh God, oh fuck, oh I hit my hand." Like he was whining and yapping the whole time, and yeah, I don't know why they did that. But after that, they basically deleted everything they've made. That's more or less how they said it, and started fresh from scratch. They got more people from the old team in there, more feedback from the community, and wow, this is the result of it. And one thing, it might be very minor and doesn't really matter for most people that haven't played the original, but here he basically has the same outfit he had in the old game in the beginning, which is just like some ripped cloth and the pants. We've seen that earlier as well, because you start with nothing. You are a nothing in that game. It's literally like Dark Souls and steroids, yeah. But you have this nice progression system. Like we see this later as well, the way he holds a weapon. I'm gonna get more into that later.
We consider the core of the series. Simulation of a living world. Exploration.
This as well, like it's pitch black. In the original as well, it was super dark, so you could find torches, you could keep them in your inventory and use them, but you would also have to hold them in your hand, right? So if you draw a sword, then you would drop it. Because especially in the beginning, when you hold a sword with two hands, even a one-handed sword with two hands, you have no hand free for a torch. But later on, you learn, and then you strike better, you strike quicker. The way you hold your sword is different. So there's so much visual representation for your progress in the game. No other game does this, and no UI. It's not like, oh yeah, I mean you could open your character page, right? But you wouldn't see in the game like hit numbers or stuff like that. All you would have is like a life bar, and that's it for you and for your enemy that you fight, and a mana bar, right? If you use mana, and yeah, very minimalistic UI that would completely enhance the immersion even more. And if you would see an enemy, right, a humanoid enemy, but also creatures, you would see that they are strong or rather weak. It was very well represented in a visual way. And I actually wanted to talk more about the fighting later, but I'm just going to finish my thought. I go back to it later. Um, the way an enemy would hold his sword or what armor they would wear, you would know if they're experienced fighters, if you can take them or not, especially after a while. And all of these visual clues made it so immersive. I don't know, it's hard to compare to any other game nowadays. And yeah, the darkness. If you go out at night, I had that quite often as a kid. And like I said, I was 10 or 11. I was really scared as well of the game. And when you would leave these otherwise very safe, I mean, in themselves, they're not safe either. You can get ripped off, you can get robbed, everything as well in the camps as well. But they felt so safe in comparison to the outside world in the barrier, in the beginning especially. So if I would venture out and I would explore the world while saving all the time, like save often, save early, right? I would try to be back before night because it was so dark. And in the night you have some advantages. Some of the monsters sleep, but it would be so dark. Really, it just added some other levels of danger to it as well. So now what I see here in the remake, they're going for an even stronger approach. Like they put more emphasis on it. It's literally pitch black, and you need your torch, which I really really like. And I do hope in the beginning you drop it, but once you're proficient in one-handed fighting, that maybe you have it in one hand and the other hand you have your sword. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. That so you have even more elements, more mechanics that play into it when you train sword fighting, for example.
Story and combat.
Or here,
Like the
right?
combat. Exploration. Story.
There we go. This kind of reminds me of Skyrim when you just wander the world and suddenly there's like this random event. But I do feel like Gothic, like it is not that big. I do feel like these things should be more scripted. I don't think it would really benefit from these random events like in Skyrim. I don't really feel like it matches in there, but it kind of reminds me of it, to be honest. I'm very curious what they're going to do because most of the NPC interaction happened within the camps. Naturally, because these are the safest places, right?
And combat.
This is what I meant with the combat. Let's go back for a second. Here, he has a one-handed sword in both hands, and he attacks so slowly.
Combat.
It's literally like, ugh! And fighting this young mole rat. Oh. this is a beginning area after you get thrown into the colony, and I remember here the bridge and everything. These used to be young enemies. Like there wasn't really a tutorial, which also uh, the playable teaser had this shitty tutorial. It was literally holding your hand. Characters that used to be really tough and dangerous in the original and treating you like trash were basically like, "Hey, yes, I help you. Yeah, if you have any questions, just come to me. I'm gonna explain you everything." Blah, 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 like making best buddies. It was weird. Like absolutely missed the tone of the game. The original, everyone was like, "I don't care if you die. Just they would kill you for like one piece of ore if they have the chance." So there was no real tutorial either. Quite the opposite, actually. I got the game from like a games collection called Gold Games back then, and there was no handbook or anything, right? And it was before I had internet even. So I was just trying to figure out how the hell do I control this, and I played it completely by keyboard, which I actually liked. And don't hate me, I do think that's the best way to play the original, and I hope there's a way to play the new game that way too. It's gotta be played by mouse and keyboard or like a controller. But I do hope there's a way to play by keyboard only, for a simple reason. I do have some wrist issues, and I can't really use a mouse that well or like the joysticks on the controller, which is bad. It's bad, but it is what it is. But yeah, anyway, I don't know how long, but I was basically spending like 20 minutes just figuring out how to do anything in the game. Like, how do I attack? Like, you had to hold down the control button and then press forward to attack. But before that, you have to draw your weapon, or well, you have no weapon yet, use your fist. So you had to press space before that, and to pick things up as well. Like, but when you finally manage to do it, like most people that start the game now, they hate the fighting system, but everyone eventually comes to love it because once you got the hang of it, the controls, as counterintuitive as they seem in the beginning, once you got the hang of it, that you realize they have some advantages that other controls don't have, and it makes you feel really being part of it. You can even play it with one hand, basically, if you figure it out or you rebind the keys. It's actually quite a nice system. Of course, they're not going to go with that again anymore nowadays, just for the sake of accessibility, which is fine, and it's better that they don't go with that again. But I do hope that still the feeling, the way you hit and the way you block and you treat enemies, that they find a way to capture this. And while we haven't seen real gameplay, I do feel like, I mean, this is gameplay, but we haven't really seen it live in action. I do feel like this portrays it quite well.
Like the original 2001
And it has a lot of impact, which we see later on as well, which gives me a lot of hope.
title, Gothic Remake is set on creating an immersive and realistic world. Enjoy a complex life simulation on a scale hardly...
This as well. That's a smith in the old camp, and in the beginning, in the original, you could open a chest, right? And in the chest you would find like a piece of metal, for example, which you need to forge swords, right? And these swords, you could sell them quite well in the beginning. And I do remember you could just open the chest and get them, but I kind of feel like from my memory, I feel like you had to be sneak about it when everyone sleeps and stealing them. I hope this is going to be the case with the remake. But from some videos I've watched later on, I do feel like it was criticized that some NPCs, they don't react. So basically what you could do is you steal these metal bars and make your own swords. But the thing is, how do you make those swords? In the original, no one told you how to do it, right? And now in modern games, you would probably have some UI elements, and they're like, okay, I don't know, select this blueprint for that sword, click on yes, yeah, forge 10 pieces of that, done. Lame and boring, okay? In the original, you had to figure it out. So what I was doing, I was watching the smith. Okay, in which order is he using which device? Okay, so first he puts the metal into the oven, which also changes the item, because after that you have like a heated up metal bar. Then he goes to the how they're called in English. Dang it, Amboss in German. I know what they're called in English, but I forgot about it. I go with Amboss now, so you learn something. Amboss, German word for this. Anvil, yeah. You go to the anvil and then you hammer it, but you don't know how long to hammer it, when to cancel the animation, and how to refresh it to make more, to hammer more of these metal things at a time, stuff like that. So at some point you cancel it, and then okay, what is he doing next? Oh, now he's sharpening it. No, wait, nonsense. After that, he put it into the water. He would put it into the water to cool it down. And then he was sharpening it. And after that, you finally have the finished sword in your inventory. So there was no UI at all involved. You just do it in the world, you take what you need, and then you just interact with the elements, and you make a sword. This is so brilliant, and it was 2001. I haven't seen anything like this in any video game ever after. This is so. I'm not saying that there is no game that does it that way. Perhaps there is, but none of these mainstream titles, as you know. And I do hope they even expand a little bit more on this in the game. But please, please, Alchemia, again, for the very unlikely chance that you're watching this, do not go with UI stuff. Don't make this a UI process. Do it like it used to be done. It was perfect. And the thing is also, you couldn't just do it the way you wanted because there was this actually dedicated smith using the devices as well. So you had to wait, or sometimes I would draw my weapons so they would stop what they're doing and draw their weapons. And then, they have the weapons for a while in their hand, and then they warn you like twice before they start attacking you. Because if you don't heed their warnings, they're like, hey, what the fuck? Put down your weapon. Put your weapon away. They feel threatened, so they feel like you're going to fight them. So they attack you at some point. So if you would just draw your weapon, they would stop what they're doing. Then you just put it back, and then you just quickly go to the oven or go to the wheel here and just use it instead, and they would be standing next to it like, what? They're doing something else. Then there was a quite kind of cheesy way to trick the AI to trick their scripted routines so you can do what you wanted to do.
A complex life simulation.
Swampweed also looking pretty neat. It definitely has some nice artistic approach, the way the smoke looks, to be honest. I like it.
On a scale hardly ever seen before in a video game. On a scale.
I want to go back to this. Okay, they're repairing. That's the thing. Every NPC had their own daily routines. They would have their places, the stuff they do. It was already extremely immersive. Like sometimes you would also catch them taking a piss somewhere, which was hilarious. I do feel though, if the remake expands on that, even it's gonna be even more immersive, and I do feel like that's what they're gonna do. So I've probably gonna make some ASMR videos just walking through the camp, stuff like that. I feel like that could be funny.
Hardly ever seen before in a video game.
Do we have
During
a
the
war
day,
mage?
the inhabitants of the colony carry out a variety of activities, while nature, rich in all its diversity.
Oh yeah, the monitor lizard. I don't know in English how it was called in the game, but in German it was the Varan. They were really scary the way they sounded and looked in the beginning. Very tough enemies. Later on, not that much anymore, but especially for newcomer. I don't know. They just have something about them that makes me look forward to finally being able to beat my first monitor lizard in the game.
Lives out its own rhythm.
It's like a
All
milestone.
this gives
And the scavengers, they even have their original sound effects again. Props to Kyle Rosenkranz again. He's just the best when it comes to game audio design, let's be real.
the impression that this world can exist without the player.
The goblins. Oh my god, the goblins. At first, I didn't know what to think of them because in the original, they were very iconic. Like, they were kind of goofy, like making these funny sounds. And they were dangerous because they would always group up on you. And there was just a way in the engine they would just fall over each other and make these little jumps the whole time, which made them really cute. Also with the sound they would make, like something like that. I can't do it. It's cringe as fuck. But they actually have a similar sound here, which makes me happy. But they went for this way creepier Joker approach, kind of, with the eyes and the teeth. And to be honest, I'm fine with that because I feel like the original feeling of the goblins wouldn't translate that well into this game. Like, I can definitely see that to be a difficult task. So I feel like they took what they can, but they made something fresh, more scary out of it, which I feel fits very much in that game, to be honest. I like it. And in comparison to the orcs, these goblins are perfect, to be honest. So I'm fine with them. But let's see. We will probably see a lot more of them in the future. I do think, actually, if you are interested in this, like for some reason you want to hear me talk more about the game, I think I'll make a bestiary once we know more on this channel. I think that could be interesting. Well, yeah, let's go.
Explore
There
the
was
colony
sound.
on your own and enjoy the unprecedented freedom this open.
Yeah, this is probably in front of the orc environment, some hanged person here. Then again, I hope they're not just using humans, like human bodies, to scare others off, but also like utilizing them in a way that would be cool. Or maybe you fight in... never mind. It's a bit too Mad Max what I had in mind right now.
Open world offers.
Xardar's Tower, I would say. I mean, from the environment here, it really looks like it's Xardas Tower. It looks different, but the original had like these really thick spikes, and I don't feel like they would translate very well with that new, more realistic graphic. So I do feel like this is a way they still have the spikes in there, but they made it fit more to the world. But who knows? Maybe this is some other place. I wonder what if they also have a function, if there's a reason for these spikes to be there. I do hope so, but yeah, we'll see.
In true RPG fashion, you
Again, it's so atmospheric. I have to go back.
decide freedom this open world offers. In true RPG fashion,
Look how dark it is.
you decide when and where you go next.
Again, here, the atmosphere in the camp. You can feel the humidity, right? The moisture levels. It's
Meet
crazy.
numerous interesting characters. Understand their innermost.
Yeah, this is Mutt. For those who don't know, I don't want to spoiler it, but he's a very kind, interesting character that you're gonna meet in Gothic 1. Very friendly in nature, not annoying at all. And his name is Mutt. There's actually a fun backstory to it because he was modeled after, I do think, like a game journalist back then, but I don't know exactly anymore. But I feel like they're giving us some hints with the mud all over his body here that it's supposed to be him. Plus, in the next scene here,
Motivations and
the way he just sits there, I don't know, it just feels like this is mud. Again, the way the cloth as well hangs on the main character's body here, the outfit, it looks so good. I'm really happy with it. Here as well, like the veins and everything, the muscles. I do feel like the graphic is actually really, really decent graphics. But then again, it's more important that they're atmospheric, in my opinion, than that they have the highest resolution of textures.
earn their respect by completing a series of elaborate quests. How you solve or handle their problems depends entirely on you.
Yeah, the bow shooting also looks really nice, especially with the ragdoll effects. I think it's gonna be fun. This reminds me of a place in Gothic 1 where you also go to a cave and you find a dead body of one of the old camp's guards. And you find a really nice item in the beginning that you can choose to keep for yourself for a while until you finish something, which is really strong in the beginning, protection-wise. But here his body looks a lot more decayed. I do wonder if they put more interactivity in that quest, or if you're even able to save him. That would be also interesting. But yeah, this is a very. I'm 99.9% certain this is actually him. Sorry for scrolling up all the time. Happens accidentally.
Your choices, no matter when, in what.
And this, oh my god, the light effects. Ah, this looks so good, so atmospheric. How these sun rays basically hit the moisture, hit the, I don't know how to call it, Nebel in German. How it just, I don't know, it just looks phenomenally good. It's probably early in the morning, but this area, I don't think this existed in the original. At least I can't recall. Maybe it was a place and they changed it, but I do feel like this is new. It really is very reminiscent of a monastery. Kind of reminds me of the monastery in Risen 1 or even Gothic 2 from the same developers of the original Gothic, Piranha Bytes.
What order, or if you do anything at all.
The arena also got expanded upon, has more levels. I do think the arena is gonna play a lot bigger of a role in the remake than in the original. The original, it was fun, but you basically had 3 fights and that's it, which were really challenging. But here I feel like this could be a recurring thing that you might maybe even you can watch some fights, stuff like that. I hope they put a really rich storyline, quest line around the arena, and maybe also give it a reason to revisit, give us, the player, a reason to revisit it and interact with it, and not just once and then that's it, because that was kind of sad in the original. I really loved the arena, but yeah, once it was finished, it was finished.
Game will always respond appropriately to your decision.
Here, the fight again. The way he moves, I feel like the way they move weapons, it has so much impact, and you can tell they're both beginners. The hero as well. Go
The
back.
game will
He holds it here with one hand,
always respond
but then goes back with two hands. So it's still like a beginner fighting style. And here,
appropriately to your decision.
damn, the impact, the way he flies, the ragdoll effect, there's so much impact. The hitboxes are done so well, I think. I mean, we don't know yet, but it looks like it. Like, it's really reactive to what actually happens.
Anything at all. The game will always
Here he misses very close by a small margin.
respond
That
appropriately to your...
really strikes him, and it is even the same sound, the like in the original. I don't know, this gives me such a flash of nostalgia. I just love it. I still have to talk to Peter about it. By the way, Peter, if you're watching this, I'm sorry.
decisions. Experience a complex and demanding combat system with satisfying
As well, like,
character.
you have these slow attacks, so you have to time them well, you have to plan them well. But of course, the stronger you get, you'll also attack quicker, right? You'll be more proficient with the weapon of your choice. And the magic, it looks so good as well. Like, the original game had really nice magic in a way of being very creative. Like, you could turn into certain beasts, you could turn into these little bugs to, for example, climb through holes to get to areas you otherwise wouldn't really get to, or would have a hard time getting to. You would have like magic also depending on which camp you join, which playstyle you want to go for. You would also find some scripture roles that you like one-time usage basically. The sect camp would give you like this powerful air blast where you could just throw people away off cliffs, like long before like Fus Rodan, the Dragonborn, you could just knock them off cliffs, which was hilarious to be honest. And I know the developers back then, they had even more spells in mind and an even more rich magic system, which they ultimately cut down to actually, you know how it always is, right? So I hope they're going to expand on the already really great system we had in Gothic 1 when it comes to spells and the interactivity with the environment. And at least graphic-wise, it looks really good and also has a lot of impact.
Progression. Overcome your opponent.
Yeah, the Skeleton Mage as well looks really good now. It was criticized. I feel like the Skeleton Mage, the Orcs, the Scavengers to some degree, and the Demons got criticized a lot. We haven't seen the Demon in this trailer, so I hope they work on the Demon, because I wasn't happy with that either, because it looked very unique, very Cthulhu-esque in the original, and very generic in the remake, what we've been seeing so far as screenshots from the 3D design. And the Skeleton Mage was also not that interesting, but I feel like now seeing it in the environment with the lighting and how it moves, I do feel like it's very close to the original, and I'm personally happy with it.
Overcome your opponents.
I'm happy with it. It could still feel a bit scarier, to be honest. It looks a bit cartoony, the way it moved the mouth there. The original, it was more scary. Also, the zombies in the original, oh my god, they were the scariest zombies I've ever seen. Just the scream they had. So again, Kai Rosenkrantz, please give them the old scream again. The scream was terrifying. It really went right to your bone marrow. If you don't know how they sound, check it up. Check it out on YouTube. A Gothic 1 zombie scream, or Gothic 1 zombie. You'll hear it. The way they move, the way they sound. When they died, especially as well, they were perfect. They were, I don't know, best zombies ever.
Using a variety of melee weapons.
There you can see the way he swung his weapon and he holds it. Also more gear. He's already a lot better with that axe. And he attacked quicker as well. I also like how you have blood on the weapons, like when he was walking here with the sword. I'm gonna go back.
Satisfying character progression. Overcome your opponents using a
Here.
variety.
I like that. Even some blood from the cloth. In the original, he would also bleed if he would be low HP. Would leave some blood drops. I think that would be a bit much now for the game, but would be interesting if that would translate. Maybe let's say you have a wound on your leg. I mean, this is obviously a lot more difficult to pull this off technically, but that maybe he walks different or something, or maybe his stamina, if there is stamina in the game, we didn't have that in the original. I don't necessarily need it, to be honest. If he then maybe has less stamina if he's low on HP or something, right? If it affects the gameplay, but especially the visual representation and the sense of animations as well, and how he just looks. I would like that, actually. I hope they're going to do that in some way.
Variety of melee weapons. Eliminate them from a distance, or learn the arcana of magic. Remember that each type of weapon.
Yeah, the magic looks so good. This, I have to go back. Look at this.
Remember that each type of weapon behaves differently.
The impact on that hit. You can tell he's still untrained the way he holds the axe. And maybe it was just a camera movement from the player in that moment, but I do feel like it was actually the game as well translating into the camera movement, like the shake, that it wasn't just done by hand. Because it gives so much impact. Also, the blood effects look so good. I want to go back to it again one more time.
Of weapon behaves differently.
Bam! Like, oh man, it really feels so good.
Its effectiveness depends on training.
Yeah, these are the mine crawlers. I mean, the new version. I think they look decent. They look really close to the original. Yeah, Peter, like I said, he had fucking. I mean, I was totally brave. I didn't care, I was like, fuck the spiders, But no, all jokes aside, I didn't mind them in the video game, but I scream like a little girl when I see a big spider in my apartment. Unless there's it's a cute little jumping spider. I love them. They're cute. I'm best friends with them. But if these are like these really, really big ones with long legs, thick body, I'm like, ugh, get me the hell out of here. um, but yeah, the mic crawlers look amazing, sound amazing. By this point, even with Cyberpunk, I was a little hyped before all of the controversy. I have to admit, but I wasn't as hyped as I'm now. I was still feeling like they didn't disappoint with The Witcher 3. Until then, they didn't disappoint at all. CD Projekt Red totally delivered until the Cyberpunk disaster. I mean, now it's a great game, right? But in the beginning when it released, you remember the shit show, the memes was actually hilarious. All of these bug videos. That really taught me a lesson. Okay, everyone can get overhyped. Even me, as high as I thought of myself apparently back then, which I don't do anymore. But yeah, with Gothic, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna deliver. I have a good feeling. But at the end of the day, we're gonna see it when it's out. So
We're aware that when creating a remake of a beloved title, it is hard to live up to the expectations of its long-term fans.
here, he even says it himself. They are aware it's hard to live up to the long-time fan expectations, and that they also want to gather new players, reach new players, and all of that. They specifically speak about this in the trailer, and that's the thing. I do know from the perspective of someone who hasn't played Gothic 1, they might just look at this and are like, okay, it seems maybe like an interesting role-playing game. Probably has some new aspects, but it definitely doesn't look like that much. It looks a lot smaller and less epic than, let's say, a Skyrim or The Witcher 3, which the story trailer of The Witcher 3 obviously had a very different emotional impact. But Gothic isn't so much about the main story. It's more about the interaction, the micro interactions with the world. Like, it feels really raw and believable. The challenges. It has a totally different focus than, let's say, like a Witcher 3. So yeah, but to us fans who recognize all of these places, who recognize the long way it has come since a playable teaser, and how difficult it is, especially with all of that nostalgia, to nail it, there's a lot of reason to be actually very positively impressed by this trailer. And so this obviously gives a very different experience now to us fans than to newcomers. But I still hope to everyone who hasn't played the original and watches this or listens to this, it still does this after like an hour. I hope you also can be a little bit excited at least and give it a try when it comes out. But we'll see how it's gonna be. By the way, this looks like the old Tower of Xardas with the to me at least, it looks very much like the other one, but old, like damaged, and there are like plants growing on it in the lake where you would find the ore armor. Speaking of zombies, but I don't want to spoil it too much.
However,
Okay, let's be real. I'm probably not spoiling to anyone here. The only fans watching this, aren't they?
we feel there is room to develop the experience further by telling new stories from the colony.
Again, the lighting. Oh my god, it looks so good. It's probably just due to the shaders of the Unreal Engine 5, but they've tweaked it in a nice way. It looks really good.
And
So
expanding
atmospheric.
on those that die-hard fans have known for more than 2 decades.
Yeah, and like again, for the very small chance that there are people who haven't played the original, this lightning or these polar lights, you could say, they're from the Magical Barrier, and they looked so atmospheric already in the original. I do feel like the way they did it here, I don't know. From my perspective, they couldn't have done it better. It looks really, really good.
We are also focusing our attention on enhancing many aspects of gameplay, such as diverse NPC routines and reactions, more complex crafting, and more rewarding character.
Yeah, crafting even. We didn't have that in Gothic 1. We could smith some swords, but there was no alchemy. I mean, it existed, but not for the player. In Gothic 2, it existed then, so I'm glad they're bringing this into Gothic 1 now as well.
Progression. Despite the passage of time, Gothic remains in the hearts and minds of many players, with the possibilities of Unreal Engine 5 and a variety of modern...
This is what makes me skeptical as well. This next to the orcs, this is another point where I feel like it's a very hit or miss situation. It's a climbing. In the original, you could climb everywhere where you would find a nice angle, and the edge and the height would be fitting. So that was actually pretty cool because It was just the way the game looked. It really worked with the polygon count of the environment, you could say, and it didn't feel artificial. Then later on, Piranha Bytes brought out Risen 2, and they had these dedicated climbing places that just stuck out of the environment. It felt very artificial and very, very not fun. It didn't feel like, oh, you actually found this yourself. You found this hidden spot where you could climb, and maybe you find a hidden item, which felt so rewarding in Gothic 1 and 2. Um, there it just felt like, yeah, we expect you to go here, everyone goes here, and this is like from a far distance you can see there's a climbable place, right? And only there, and everywhere else where it looks interesting to you, where you might like to explore the map, and maybe you find something, maybe you don't. You still have this curiosity, the spark inside of you to explore. It wasn't there, but that was the way it was Gothic 1. This area looks very much made for climbing. Like it is, again, like they have some artificial areas for climbing, which I don't know. If you never climb anywhere in the game, but then you have these few areas, it just feels weird. And then again, the technological base of the game is very different now. So maybe it's very hard to have climbing everywhere, which also would kind of like, can you then climb straight up over the castle fence? That would bring some game breaking issues with it. So I wonder how they're handling that. I hope they do this again, like with certain angles and edges, like that you can climb on houses and on some mountains and stuff like that. But overall, that you don't really have these predetermined areas to do that. But I want to be optimistic, but I'm carefully optimistic when it comes to the climbing system. It might be a nice addition, but in my opinion, I rather have them not implement it at all. Like just still like jumping, climbing houses, that for sure. But I rather have them no climbing like this, like actually on a wall. I rather don't have them implement that than having a version like in Risen 2, because that just was bad. It wasn't adding anything to the game and everyone hated it.
Features. Gothic Remake will...
Yeah, the nameless hero and his 4 friends. Milton with the wavy hair, Gorn, hopefully a bit more jacked now, Diego, and Lester, who lost the ship to the pirates in Gothic 3. Gothic 3 is its own story.
Soon rekindle that love.
Well,
Whether
looks
you've
amazing.
been a loyal fan for years or are just looking for a true RPG experience.
At least the orcs walk in a good manner, actually. I feel like they walk close to the original.
Welcome back to the colony.
Yeah, I'm very excited, to be honest. Thank you for watching, for listening so long, 1 hour. Yeah, what should I say? If you have anything that you noticed in the trailer, please let me know in the comments. Post if you liked it or not, what you liked, what you didn't like, what ideas, what theories you've got, what fears perhaps about the remake. I do hope we'll have the same old voice actors like Christian Wewerka for the Nameless Hero. Surely he has aged since then, but I do feel like we need him as a voice actor. It's not going to work if we have someone else. And as far as I remember, he was actually interested in being voice acting again in Gothic, actually. Xardas could still voice act Xardas quite well. Obviously, many of them died, or maybe they just don't do that anymore. But I hope they get as much or as many voice actors back from the original as possible. I mean, it's 32 years, or maybe with the development, 24 years even, since they started recording, perhaps. So a lot of time has passed, right? But I do think for the German localization that is actually important. And I'm sure they know that themselves, and Kai is probably doing what he can to get them on board. When it comes to the English one, it definitely was very memorable as well for many of the players who played in English, same with Polish. But the other localizations really weren't that good compared to the German one. And I think nowadays, like this time, the English one is going to be probably the same quality, if not better. Who knows? I mean, it's an international project actually, so I'm sure they're not going to disappoint. But it's going to be a challenge to get it right, because even in the English version, the original dialogues, they had their own charm. Like, there's no other role-playing game with these dialogues. I don't know how to explain it. You just have to know it. It's very, very unique, very special, and that also made Gothic what it was, or what it is. So yeah, please don't come up with 0815 high fantasy dialogues. I want to have the rough, funny, weird, shit that we know from the original. Okay, that's just the best they can do. And it's fine if they don't do it one for one because obviously it's a new game. They have a fresh paint to it. But at least I hope they nail the memorable characters. I hope they create new memorable characters that we don't know, expand on the old ones, and that they like if they just go for like okay we try to copy it word for word, it's not gonna work. They need to have some freedom to do their own thing. And as much as we fans might not like that, I do think we have to give them that freedom because otherwise it's just gonna feel weird, like a weird copy, like they try to, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, but I'm very optimistic that they're gonna nail that. Even though we haven't heard anything from the voice actors so far, but just the way they presented their ambition, and showed and talked about that they understand how much of a challenge this is, this poses, this whole project, and what they showed in this trailer, it just really gives me confidence that they are aware of these things that we care for, at least now. So yeah. Yeah, when it comes to Gothic 3, maybe you had the same experience as I had. When it came out, like I was active in the forums, in the World of Gothic forum, like years ago, even before the release. And then I bought a new graphics card, I bought new memory and everything. And then the game lagged so badly because it wasn't finished, of course. But I still enjoyed it. Like whenever I died, I had to wait like 60 minutes, and I had a 50-50% 50-50 chance that I get a blue screen of death in the meantime. And then the whole time it would blast this fighting music in every loading screen. But despite all of that, and obviously from now, like from today, I can approach it a bit more objective, and I see that Gothic 3 was not a good game in many aspects. It still has its charm. It still did a lot of things right. It sadly just wasn't finished back then because of Yovood, and maybe also because of Piranha Bytes' own ambition. But yeah, I think if they had more time, they would have been able to deliver. But it still was a wonderful experience that has a lot of nostalgia and magic to me when I think back. And I feel like this Gothic remake maybe finally is the entry after Gothic 2 Night of the Raven that actually delivers what we were hoping for since then as fans. It actually has a lot of potential. And I'm very happy, as mean as it sounds, that it's not the old Piranha Bytes doing this. I mean, there are like the best people of the old team are working on the remake, but that they founded a new studio with a new leader, new vision, and that they're doing what they're doing now. I do think this is better than it would have turned out. Don't want to be mean here, but I do feel like Piranha Bytes' latest entries, Elex and Elex 2, even before that, the Risen series, after Risen 1, they just showed that they kind of lost their way. And it just didn't, it always felt dated, and it just didn't, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are people that had a lot of fun with it, and I'm not saying everything was bad, but they just missed this core experience, what made the original Gothic what it was, what this extra sauce to it that influenced all of our lives so much. And yeah, that gave us these wonderful memories. So I'm actually happy that the remake is in the hands that it is in right now. And I hope I will still have this opinion once it's released and I played it. Because this could still turn out to be a disappointment, but it probably will be in some areas for us hardcore fans, but I feel like that's also our responsibility to be a bit open, at least for some changes. At the end of the day, it depends what these changes are and for what reason they're in there, right? There might be some technical ones that we might not see immediately on the surface level for like why they exist, these changes. But as long as the other changes, they make sense or they make better or expand on what we had in a positive way, then I'm all for it. But if you already have like a good, let's draw a comparison, right? You have The Witcher, the books, that were quite good. I enjoyed them. The games were even better, in my opinion. Like they were really, really good. And the games really showed, especially Witcher 3, how to interpret certain things. And then you've got the Netflix adaptation where some things were done really well. You had good actors and actresses. You have really bad writing though, especially in season 2. And they had they had good material in the books, and then they just strived away from it in many, many ways. So much even so that the lead actor, Henry Cavill, left the show because he was done with them ruining the whole project, right? The writers really messed it up. And so they put changes in there while they already had a good alternative. And if the change basically makes it just worse, then I don't like the change, right? But if the change is justified in a way, if it's understandable or it's equal, then hey, it's okay. It's okay. Um, anyway, I'm talking for way too long now. These are just my thoughts that I just had while watching it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for staying so long. And yeah, maybe we'll see each other or hear each other another time in another video. Yeah, bye bye.